Welcome to Just Listen Books channel. Immerse yourself in the world of literature as we summarize books and deliver them in audio form. Perfect for your car rides, travels, and daily activities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg is a book that explores the science behind why habits exist and how they can be changed. The book is divided into 3 parts, focusing on the habits of individuals, the habits of successful organizations, and the habits of societies. Part 1. The Habits of Individuals. Chapter 1. The Habit Loop: How Habits Work. In this chapter, the author delves into the neurological framework that underpins every habit, introducing readers to the fundamental structure known as the habit loop. This concept is crucial for understanding how habits form, function, and can be altered. The habit loop consists of 3 key elements. 1. Cue: a trigger that tells the brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. 2. Routine: this is the behavior itself, which can be physical, mental, or emotional. 3. Reward: a positive reinforcement that tells the brain that the routine works well and is worth remembering. Duhigg explains that the habit loop is deeply embedded in the human brain, making certain actions almost automatic after repeated exposure to the same cue and reward. He uses various studies and examples to illustrate how this loop operates, such as the story of Eugene, a man who lost his short-term memory but was still able to form new habits through repetition, indicating that the habit-making process resides in a different part of the brain, the basal ganglia, than memory and consciousness. One of the most powerful insights from this chapter is the idea that habits, once established, are incredibly hard to shake because the brain becomes so accustomed to the loop. When a cue triggers a routine, the anticipation of the reward creates a craving, which is what makes the habit stick. This craving is essential for the habit loop to operate, as it propels the individual through the routine with the expectation of a reward. Furthermore, Duhigg posits that understanding this habit loop offers the key to breaking bad habits and forming good ones. By identifying the cues and rewards that drive our behaviors, we can begin to alter the routines in between. However, the change requires identifying what triggers a habit and what reward the brain is craving, which is not always straightforward. This chapter sets the stage for the rest of the book by offering a clear scientific understanding of how habits form, and suggesting that by manipulating the components of the habit loop, individuals have the power to change their habits. This insight is both empowering and daunting, as it places responsibility on individuals to analyze and adjust their behavior patterns for better outcomes. Chapter 2. The Craving Brain: How to Create New Habits. In this chapter, the author explores the crucial role of cravings in the development and sustainability of habits. He extends the concept of the habit loop introduced in the first chapter by emphasizing how cravings are not just a part of the loop, but are fundamental to initiating and cementing new habits. Duhigg begins by illustrating the power of cravings through the example of Pepsodent, a toothpaste that became a market leader in the early 20th century. The success of Pepsodent, according to Duhigg, was largely due to how it created a specific craving for the cool, tingling sensation it left in users' mouths, effectively linking this sensation to the habit of brushing teeth. This craving for a clean mouth became the cue in the habit loop, with brushing as the routine and the tingling sensation as the reward. The author explains that cravings are powerful because they create a strong anticipation of reward, making the routine almost irresistible. This anticipation is rooted in the brain's release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. When the brain anticipates a reward, dopamine is released not only when the reward is achieved, but also in anticipation of it, which drives the individual to perform the habit. To further illustrate the point, Duhigg delves into the transformation of the American coffee culture by Starbucks. He explains how Starbucks created a set of habits around coffee consumption by training employees to perform consistently, thereby ensuring that customers would crave the Starbucks experience, not just the coffee, but the service, atmosphere, and reliability. This was achieved through meticulous training and a reward system that encouraged employees to habitually offer superior customer service, creating a craving in customers for the Starbucks experience. Crucially, Duhigg points out that to change a habit or create a new one, it's essential to understand the specific cues and rewards that drive one's behaviors, and then to insert a new routine into the existing loop. However, without the creation of a genuine craving for the reward, the new habit is unlikely to stick. The craving propels the individual through the routine, with the anticipation of the reward, making the habit automatic. The chapter underscores that understanding and manipulating cravings are central to habit change. By identifying what cravings are really being satisfied by existing habits, individuals can tailor new habits that satisfy those same cravings, but in healthier or more productive ways. This insight not only helps in breaking bad habits, but also in establishing new, positive ones, demonstrating the profound impact that a deep understanding of cravings can have on our ability to shape our behaviors. Chapter 3. The Golden Rule of Habit Change. Why transformation occurs. In this chapter, the author introduces a critical principle for altering habits effectively. This principle, known as the Golden Rule of Habit Change, posits that the most effective way to change a habit is to keep the cue and the reward the same, but to alter the routine that occurs as a result of that cue. This approach leverages the existing habit loop structure, cue, routine, reward, by modifying just one component of it, the routine, while keeping the other elements constant. Duhigg explains that habits are deeply ingrained in our brains, making them difficult to extinguish completely. However, by maintaining the same cue and reward and changing only the routine, it's possible to redirect the habit into something more desirable or productive. This approach works because the brain continues to expect the reward it's accustomed to receiving after the cue, which helps ensure the new routine sticks. To illustrate this concept, Duhigg presents several compelling examples, including the story of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. AA's success in helping people change their drinking habits is partly attributed to its understanding and application of the Golden Rule. In this case, the cue, stress or emotional triggers leading to a craving for alcohol, and the reward, relief from stress, social bonding, or escape, remain the same, but the routine, drinking alcohol, is replaced with attending AA meetings, where individuals find support and camaraderie. The craving for relief or escape is still satisfied, but in a healthier way. Another example Duhigg uses involves an individual named Tony Dungy, a former NFL coach who applied the Golden Rule to coaching. Dungy's approach was to change players' routines in response to specific cues on the field, but to keep the cues and the rewards, winning games, personal and team success, the same. This strategy eventually led to remarkable success, including winning the Super Bowl. The chapter emphasizes that understanding the specific cues and rewards driving a habit is crucial for successfully changing the routine. It's not enough to simply want to change. One must dig deeper into the habit loop's mechanics. Furthermore, Duhigg notes the importance of belief in the process, especially during moments of temptation or when facing challenges. Belief, often fueled by group support or other external factors, helps reinforce the new routine until it becomes automatic. The Golden Rule of Habit Change. Why transformation occurs provides a hopeful message. While habits may be deeply ingrained and challenging to change, a systematic approach based on understanding and reshaping the habit loop can lead to meaningful and lasting transformation. This insight has profound implications not only for individual habit change, but also for organizational and societal behaviors. Part 2. The Habits of Successful Organizations. Chapter 4. Keystone Habits, or The Ballad of Paul O'Neill, Which Habits Matter Most. In this chapter, the author introduces the concept of keystone habits and their profound impact on organizations and individuals. Keystone habits are those that, when identified and modified, have the power to start a chain reaction, changing other habits in the process. These habits are crucial because they can influence and shift the behaviors across an entire organization, leading to significant outcomes. The chapter powerfully illustrates this concept through the story of Paul O'Neill, and his tenure as CEO of Alcoa, Aluminum Company of America, one of the largest aluminum producers in the world. When O'Neill took over in 1987, he surprised investors by focusing almost exclusively on improving worker safety, rather than financial performance or productivity metrics. Safety, he argued, was a keystone habit that could trigger widespread organizational change. O'Neill's focus on safety had a remarkable effect. By concentrating on this single keystone habit, not only did Alcoa's safety record improve dramatically, but other aspects of the company also transformed. The emphasis on safety led to better communication across different levels of the organization, as employees felt more valued and engaged. This, in turn, led to innovations in manufacturing processes, higher quality production, and ultimately, significant improvements in productivity and financial performance. Under O'Neill's leadership, Alcoa's market value increased substantially, and the safety measures he implemented became a model for other industries. Duhigg uses Alcoa's story to illustrate how focusing on one seemingly narrow area can lead to comprehensive change. Keystone habits create a structure through which other habits are developed and reinforced. In Alcoa's case, the emphasis on safety created a culture that valued open communication, meticulous attention to operational details, and continuous improvement. These cultural shifts were not directly targeted, but emerged as byproducts of the focus on safety. The concept of keystone habits extends beyond organizations to personal habits and societal changes. Identifying and modifying a single keystone habit can lead to transformative outcomes in various aspects of life. For individuals, a keystone habit might be exercise, which can lead to better eating habits, improved mood, and higher productivity. In communities, a focus on a specific issue, like cleaning up public spaces, can lead to broader civic engagement and reduced crime rates. The chapter on keystone habits is a compelling argument for focusing efforts on core behaviors that have the power to initiate change far beyond their immediate scope. By understanding and leveraging the power of keystone habits, individuals and leaders can more effectively drive positive change within themselves, their organizations, and their communities. Chapter 5. Starbucks and the Habit of Success, When Willpower Becomes Automatic. In this chapter, the author delves into the concept of willpower, not just as a mental resource, but as a habit that can be developed and strengthened over time. The chapter uses Starbucks as a case study to illustrate how the company systematically trains its employees in the art of self-discipline, effectively turning willpower into an automatic response to everyday challenges. Duhigg begins by presenting willpower as one of the most important predictors of success in life. He references studies showing that individuals with high self-control tend to have better outcomes in areas like personal finance, health, and interpersonal relationships. However, willpower is also a finite resource that can be depleted, a phenomenon known as ego depletion. Starbucks, understanding the critical role of willpower in employee performance and customer satisfaction, has developed a comprehensive training program that focuses on teaching employees how to handle difficult situations with grace and efficiency. This program, which involves role-playing exercises and the use of specific scripts for dealing with challenging customer interactions, aims to instill a set of automatic behaviors, or habits, that employees can rely on when under pressure. A key component of Starbucks' approach is the concept of latte: listen, acknowledge, take action, thank the customer, explain, a sequence designed to guide employees through customer service interactions. By practicing and internalizing this sequence, employees build the habit of responding to stress with a constructive routine, thereby preserving their willpower for other tasks. Duhigg explains that this process of habit formation is underpinned by the habit loop, cue, routine, reward, introduced in earlier chapters. In the case of Starbucks employees, the cue might be a customer complaint, the routine is the lat sequence, and the reward is the resolution of the situation and the customer's satisfaction. Over time, this loop becomes ingrained, and the response becomes automatic. The chapter also discusses the broader implications of treating willpower as a habit. By understanding how to structure our environment and routines to trigger desirable responses, individuals can enhance their self-discipline in various areas of life. Duhigg suggests that the key to building willpower is recognizing the cues that lead to undesirable behaviors and consciously designing new routines that lead to better outcomes. Starbucks and the habit of success, when willpower becomes automatic. Not only provides insight into the innovative training methods of one of the world's most successful companies, but also offers valuable lessons on how willpower can be cultivated and harnessed to achieve personal and professional goals. The chapter underscores the idea that with the right approach, even qualities as elusive as self-discipline can be broken down into manageable components and developed into lasting habits. Chapter 6. The Power of a Crisis: How Leaders Create Habits, Through Accident and Design. In this chapter, the author explores the concept that crises, whether naturally occurring or deliberately acknowledged, can serve as powerful catalysts for organizational change. Duhigg posits that during a crisis, the normal operations of an organization are disrupted, making it possible for leaders to implement new patterns of behavior and establish new habits throughout the organization. The chapter examines several case studies that illustrate how crises have been leveraged to transform organizational habits. One notable example is Rhode Island Hospital, which faced a crisis following a series of surgical mistakes, including operating on the wrong side of patients' brains. The ensuing public outcry and legal consequences created a crisis atmosphere within the hospital. This crisis provided a unique opportunity for leadership to enforce new safety protocols and habits, such as mandatory surgical checklists and a culture of accountability, which were resisted under normal circumstances. The crisis made it clear that change was necessary, thereby lowering resistance to new procedures and creating a sense of urgency around adopting them. Duhigg also discusses the case of King's Cross Station in London, where a devastating fire led to a re-evaluation of safety practices and emergency preparedness. The tragedy of the fire and the subsequent investigation highlighted the station's inadequate response protocols and the poor communication habits among staff. In response, new safety standards and communication practices were implemented, significantly improving the station's safety culture and operational efficiency. Through these examples, Duhigg illustrates a key principle. Crises break down the resistance to change that often characterizes organizational life. When routines are disrupted and the status quo is challenged, people are more willing to accept new ways of doing things. Leaders can use the urgency and openness generated by a crisis to instigate significant changes that might be impossible under normal conditions. However, Duhigg also cautions that leveraging a crisis for positive change requires careful management. Leaders must be able to identify the core habits that need to change, articulate a clear vision for how those changes will benefit the organization, and implement new structures that support the desired behaviors. The crisis does not do the work on its own. It merely creates a window of opportunity that leaders must navigate with intention and foresight. The Power of a Crisis. Chapter underscores the idea that while crises are inherently disruptive and often traumatic, they also offer unique opportunities for transformation. By understanding how habits form and can be changed, leaders can use the momentum generated by a crisis to build stronger, more resilient organizations. This approach to change management highlights the importance of strategic leadership and the potential for growth even in the face of adversity. Chapter 7. How Target Knows What You Want Before You Do: The Science of Habit Formation in Retail. In this chapter, the author dives into the sophisticated world of consumer habit tracking and influence, with a focus on how retailers like Target use data analytics to predict and shape buying behaviors. This chapter illuminates the intersection of habit science with marketing strategies, showcasing how understanding and influencing consumer habits can lead to significant increases in sales. Duhigg begins by introducing the concept of predictive analytics in retail, using Target as a prime example. He explains that Target, like many other retailers, collects vast amounts of data on its customers through various channels, including purchase histories, online activity, and loyalty programs. By analyzing this data, Target can identify patterns in consumer behavior that indicate life changes, such as pregnancy, which are times when consumers are more open to changing their buying habits. One of the most fascinating examples Duhigg provides is how Target was able to predict a teen girl's pregnancy before her father knew, based on her purchasing habits. By identifying specific products that women tended to buy in the early stages of pregnancy, Target could infer a customer's pregnancy status and then send coupons for baby-related products at just the right time to influence her shopping habits. Duhigg explains the science behind habit formation in the context of consumer behavior, emphasizing the habit loop, cue, routine, reward, and how retailers can insert their products into this loop. For example, if a customer habitually buys a specific brand of coffee, routine, because they enjoy the taste, reward, a retailer like Target might send a coupon for that brand, cue, to reinforce and capitalize on this habit. The chapter also discusses the ethical considerations and consumer backlash that can arise from such targeted marketing practices. Duhigg notes that while predictive analytics can be incredibly effective for increasing sales, companies must navigate the fine line between being helpful and being intrusive. Target, for example, learned to mix in coupons for unrelated items among those for baby products to make their targeting less obvious and reduce customer discomfort. How Target knows what you want before you do sheds light on the powerful role that habit science plays in modern marketing strategies. By understanding and influencing consumer habits, companies like Target can not only predict future buying behavior but also shape it, creating a cycle of consumption that benefits the retailer. This chapter raises important questions about privacy, consent, and the ethical use of consumer data, while also highlighting the potential of data analytics to transform retail marketing. Part 3. The Habits of Societies. Chapter 8. Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus. Boycott: How Movements Happen. In this chapter, the author explores the dynamics behind the growth and sustainability of social movements. He does this by analyzing how these movements can instigate widespread change by embedding new habits within a community. The chapter juxtaposes two seemingly different case studies: the establishment and expansion of Saddleback Church, founded by Pastor Rick Warren in California, and the historic Montgomery bus boycott of 1955-1956, to illustrate universal principles of social habit formation and change. Duhigg introduces the concept that for a movement to take off and sustain itself, it must create a social habit of community, change, and belonging. He argues that movements start with a social pattern that attracts initial supporters, then grow by transforming private discontent into a public cause, and finally, are sustained by peer pressure and the social habits that encourage participation even when the movement faces challenges. Saddleback Church. Duhigg details how Rick Warren used small, intimate home groups to foster a sense of community and belonging among church members. These groups served as the foundation for building strong interpersonal ties and a shared identity among attendees, which were crucial for the church's rapid growth. Warren's strategy relied on embedding the habit of participation within these small groups, making church involvement a core part of members' social lives. Montgomery bus boycott. The chapter then shifts to the Montgomery bus boycott, focusing on how the boycott started as a response to Rosa Parks' arrest, but quickly evolved into a widespread movement. Duhigg highlights the role of social habits in mobilizing the African American community in Montgomery. The success of the boycott was attributed to the strong church network within the community, which served as an organizational and communication hub. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. were able to leverage these existing social habits to encourage participation and sustain the boycott, despite significant challenges and risks to individuals. Duhigg posits that the key to both the church's growth and the boycott's success was the creation of a movement that went beyond just shared beliefs or goals. Instead, the movements ingrained new habits within their communities, habits of fellowship, collective action, and mutual support, that transformed individual desires for change into powerful, cohesive forces. The chapter underscores the importance of social ties and the role of community leaders in shaping behavior through the establishment of new social habits. It demonstrates that movements gain momentum, not just because of the strength of their ideas or the charisma of their leaders, but because they tap into the power of social habits to bring people together and drive collective action. Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus Boycott: How Movements Happen provides profound insights into the mechanics of social change, showing how understanding and shaping social habits can be a critical strategy for anyone looking to create a lasting impact on a community or society. Chapter 9. The Neurology of Free Will: Are we responsible for our habits? In the final chapter, the author explores the complex interplay between habits, free will, and personal responsibility. This chapter ventures into the ethical and philosophical terrain, questioning the extent to which individuals can be held accountable for actions that are largely governed by automatic, ingrained habits. Duhigg navigates through neuroscience, psychology, and real-life scenarios to address these profound issues. Duhigg begins by examining the neurological basis of habits, reiterating that habits are formed in the brain's basal ganglia, a region that operates largely outside of our conscious awareness. This understanding raises crucial questions about free will. If our actions are driven by deeply ingrained habits that function autonomously from our conscious decision-making, to what extent are we truly in control of our behavior? The chapter discusses several case studies to illustrate these concepts, including the story of a man with a gambling addiction who argued in court that his actions were the result of compulsions beyond his conscious control. Another poignant example involves an individual who committed a violent act while sleepwalking, raising legal and ethical questions about culpability when actions are performed without conscious intent. Duhigg uses these examples to delve into the debate over whether individuals can be held responsible for habits that lead to harmful or illegal actions. He points out that while our brains may be wired to form habits, we also have the capacity to reflect on our actions, recognize destructive patterns, and exert effort to change. This capacity for self-reflection and change, Duhigg argues, plays a crucial role in the conversation about responsibility and free will. The chapter also addresses the concept of inflection points, moments when individuals become acutely aware of their habits and have the opportunity to alter them. Duhigg suggests that recognizing these moments and making conscious decisions to change can be empowering, emphasizing that while we may not have control over the formation of certain habits, we do have the power to modify them with awareness and effort. Duhigg concludes by advocating for a balanced view that acknowledges the powerful influence of habits on our behavior, while also affirming the human capacity for self-awareness, change, and moral responsibility. He suggests that understanding the mechanics of habit formation is not a means to absolve ourselves of responsibility, but rather a tool to better understand and improve our behavior. The Neurology of Free Will: Are we responsible for our habits? Presents a nuanced perspective on the nature of habits, the limits and possibilities of free will, and the ethical dimensions of personal responsibility. Through engaging storytelling and scientific insight, Duhigg invites readers to reflect on their own habits and the degree to which they shape, and are shaped by, their conscious choices and intentions. Throughout the book, Duhigg combines scientific research with compelling storytelling to illustrate how habits form and how they can be changed, offering valuable insights for individuals looking to transform their lives, leaders aiming to reshape organizations, and societies striving for positive change. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Your support means the world to us. Click subscribe and hit the bell to be the first to enjoy our upcoming audiobooks. Together, let's continue this amazing journey through stories and tales.